Which driver has more money in the bank, the man in the black Escalade, or the man in the dented 2013 Camry? Almost everyone picks the Escalade. And that instinct, that split-second assumption, is costing millions of Americans their financial future. If that question made you stop and think, you are exactly where you need to be right now. And if this kind of honest, no-fluff financial content is something you want more of, hit that subscribe button before we go any further, because what I'm about to show you changes how you see money forever. Let me tell you about Brandon. Brandon is 38 years old, lives in suburban Ohio, and by every visible measure, he is doing well. He drives a leased black Escalade. He wears a watch that cost more than most people's rent. His Instagram looks like a highlight reel: dinners, trips, tailored jackets, rooftop bars. His coworkers assume he's crushing it. His neighbors assume the same. His own mother brags about him at church. Brandon earns $110,000 a year. Brandon has $900 in his savings account. Now let me tell you about Gary. Gary is 41. He drives a dented 2013 Toyota Camry that he owns outright. He wears the same 5 shirts on rotation. He doesn't post vacations because he takes quiet ones, a state park here, a road trip there. Nobody at his job talks about Gary's lifestyle because there isn't much to talk about. He's just Gary. Steady. Quiet. Unremarkable on the surface. Gary has $240,000 in index funds. Same country. Same economy. Completely opposite financial realities, and you would never know it by looking at them. That's not an accident. That is by design. And the system that created that gap was not built to help you. It was built to profit from the confusion. Here is the question I want you to sit with right now, and I genuinely want you to answer this honestly in the comments below. How much of your monthly spending is about what you actually need, and how much of it is about what you want other people to think of you? Take a moment with that. Because most people, when they really examine their spending, find that a significant percentage of it isn't really about them at all. It's about an audience. An invisible audience of coworkers, neighbors, social media followers, and strangers at traffic lights, people who are not paying your bills, not thinking about your retirement, and not going to be there when the financial pressure becomes too much to carry alone. We have been trained, systematically, deliberately, and brilliantly, to confuse the appearance of wealth with the reality of it. And it started long before you were old enough to earn your first dollar. Think about every advertisement you have ever seen for a luxury car. Nobody in those commercials is stressed about a car payment. Nobody is calculating how this purchase affects their retirement timeline. The person in the commercial is confident, attractive, admired, and the car is the reason. That is the message. Buy this, and become that. Think about social media. Every platform is essentially a curated gallery of people's best moments, the vacation they saved for 2 years, shown as though it's a regular Tuesday. The outfit worn once for a photo, then returned the next morning. The restaurant visit that happened once, positioned to look like a lifestyle. The American consumer economy is a masterpiece of psychological engineering. It identified the one thing that human beings are most vulnerable to, the need to belong, to be respected, to be seen as successful, and it built an entire industry around monetizing that need. Every upgrade, every luxury purchase, every status symbol is sold not as a product but as an identity. You are not buying a car. You are buying the version of yourself that drives that car. And here is where it gets dangerous. Because the moment you start spending money to perform an identity rather than build a future, you have stepped onto a treadmill that never stops moving. You earn more, you spend more. You upgrade, you adapt, get bored, and need the next upgrade. Your lifestyle expands to meet your income, and sometimes it expands faster than your income can keep up. And while you are running on that treadmill, looking great, feeling the burn, the quiet ones, the Garys of the world, are sitting still. Planting seeds. Watching them grow. This is where Brandon's story takes a turn nobody saw coming. Brandon got a raise last year. $12,000 more annually, a real achievement, something he worked hard for. He celebrated the way he always does. He told people about it, upgraded his apartment to a place with granite countertops and a rooftop pool, and financed a boat he uses 4 times a year. His expenses that year increased by $14,000. He ended the year further behind than when he started. Now here is what Gary did with his raise. He got $5,000 more that year. He increased his monthly investment contribution by $400, noticed nothing else change in his daily life, and kept driving the Camry. 5 years later, Gary's portfolio crossed $300,000. Brandon's net worth, after a decade of six-figure income, is negative $42,000. Brandon worked harder. Brandon earned more. Brandon ended up with less. Because every single dollar he made, he immediately spent proving to someone else that he made it. That is not a spending problem. That is a psychology problem. And it is one of the most common and most costly financial traps in America today. Behavioral economists call it lifestyle inflation. I call it the treadmill with no finish line. You never actually get ahead, you just get more tired running in place while the scenery around you gets more expensive. But let's go deeper. Because this is where the story gets genuinely surprising. Most people assume that the wealthy look wealthy. That the Escalade is the giveaway. That the watch is the signal. That the address tells you everything you need to know about the bank account. Thomas Stanley spent decades studying actual millionaires in America. Not celebrities. Not tech executives. Not inherited wealth. Everyday American millionaires, the people who quietly built substantial net worth over time on ordinary incomes. And what he found should permanently change how you see the person next to you at the grocery store. The majority of American millionaires drive used cars. They shop at discount retailers. They live in homes well below what their income could afford. They do not lease. They do not upgrade for the sake of upgrading. They do not confuse the cost of something with the value of it. And when you meet them, you would never guess. Because real wealth in America is not a display. It is a discipline. Meet Carol. Carol is 62 years old, lives in a modest ranch house in Columbus, Ohio, and drives a 2018 Subaru Outback with a small dent in the rear bumper that she hasn't bothered to fix. She retired 3 years ago, at 59, without telling most people she was doing it. She just quietly stopped going to work one day. Her financial advisor once told her she could afford a much larger home. She asked him one question. Would a bigger house make my money grow, or just make my driveway look better? He didn't have a good answer. She stayed in the ranch house. Carol understood something that Brandon is still learning. Every dollar you spend on appearances is a dollar that is no longer working for you. Every luxury purchase is not just a transaction, it is a trade. You are trading future freedom for present admiration. You are trading optionality for optics. And once you see every spending decision through that lens, everything changes. Here is the metaphor I want you to carry with you for the rest of this video, and honestly, for the rest of your financial life. Money is water. When water flows freely without direction, it spreads out, evaporates, disappears. You had it, and then somehow you don't. But when water is channeled deliberately, when you direct it with intention, it builds pressure, creates momentum, and eventually generates power far beyond what you originally put in. Most people let their money evaporate. They earn it, and it flows out in a dozen directions: the car payment, the subscription they forgot about, the dinner that felt necessary, the upgrade that felt deserved, and by the end of the month there is nothing left to channel. Nothing left to build pressure with. The Garys and the Carols of the world do something different. They build channels first. They automate their investments before lifestyle has a chance to absorb the money. They treat their future financial freedom as the first bill they pay, not the last thing they get to with whatever is left over. Gary does not think about investing as sacrifice. He thinks of it as buying future mornings where he gets to decide what he does with his time. Carol does not think of her modest house as a limitation. She thinks of it as the reason she got to stop working 8 years before most of her neighbors. They are not depriving themselves. They are choosing a different kind of rich, one that nobody can see from the outside, but one that you feel on the inside every single morning when you wake up and your financial obligations do not own your day. Now I want to talk about something that does not get enough attention in personal finance conversations. And it is this: the cost of looking rich is not just financial. It is psychological. Brandon does not sleep well. That is not a detail I am adding for drama. It is the lived reality of millions of Americans who have built a lifestyle that requires everything to go right just to stay in place. One job loss. One medical bill. 1 month where the unexpected happens, and the whole structure starts to crack. The anxiety of maintaining a lifestyle you cannot actually afford is a weight that follows you everywhere. It sits with you at dinner. It wakes you up at 3 a.m. It turns every financial conversation with a partner into a negotiation filled with things you are not quite saying out loud. Brandon recently got a notification that his car lease is up for renewal in 60 days. He cannot afford to renew it at the new rate. He cannot afford to buy it out. He is going to have to downgrade, publicly, visibly, in a way his co-workers will notice, and the anxiety he feels about that is genuinely significant to him. Not because of the car. Because of what he believes the car says about him. Because he has spent 10 years building an identity out of visible success, and now the visible success is becoming harder to maintain, and he does not know who he is without it. That is a financial crisis. But underneath it is an identity crisis. And the financial advisors never talk about the identity part. Here's what the video does not usually say. Breaking out of the looking rich trap is not just about spreadsheets and savings rates. It requires a fundamental shift in how you define success. And that shift is uncomfortable, because it means stepping away from a definition that the entire culture around you is reinforcing every single day. It means driving the car that makes financial sense while your neighbor gets the new one. It means staying in the apartment while your friends move somewhere with a better zip code. It means watching your investment account grow while your lifestyle stays quiet, and trusting that the quiet is the point. It means being the person nobody talks about at dinner, and understanding that the people nobody talks about are often the ones with the most freedom. That is not easy. The social pressure is real. The comparison is constant. And social media has made it worse than any previous generation has ever had to navigate. But here is the truth that the financially independent have figured out, and it sounds simple, but it lands differently once you really internalize it. You cannot buy freedom with money you spent proving you had money. Every dollar that leaves your account to impress someone is a dollar that is no longer compounding. It is no longer growing. It is no longer building the version of your life where you have choices. And the cruelest part of the trap is that the admiration you get from spending that dollar lasts maybe a week. Maybe a month. Then people adapt, expect the new level, and the treadmill moves a little faster. But a dollar invested at 35, left alone, allowed to compound, can become $10 by 65. $10. From one that you would have spent on something nobody even remembers. Let me bring this back to Brandon one more time, because his story deserves a real ending. Brandon hit his wall 6 months ago. A medical bill for his son's emergency room visit. A job restructure that reduced his hours. And the lease notification, all in the same month. He called his older brother, Kevin, for help. Kevin is the quiet one in the family. Drives a used Ford F-150 that has seen better days. Lives in a house he paid off at 51. Never talks about money at family gatherings. Never posts about it. Just lives. Kevin helped him. Of course he did. That is what people with real financial stability can do. They can show up when it matters, because they built something real instead of performing something impressive. And Kevin told Brandon one thing. Stop trying to show people you made it. Just make it. 6 words. And Brandon said later that it was the first financial advice that ever actually landed. Not because it was complicated. Because it was true. Because somewhere underneath the Escalade and the watch and the Instagram posts, he already knew. He had always known. He just needed permission to stop. Here's what I want you to walk away with today. The wealthiest people in America often became wealthy precisely because they stopped trying to look wealthy. Not because they are cheap. Not because they do not enjoy their lives. But because they made a decision, a quiet, deliberate, countercultural decision, to stop letting other people's opinions determine what they did with their money. They understood that real wealth is not a number and a salary. It is a gap, the gap between what you earn and what you spend, allowed to grow over time with intention and patience. And that gap, sustained over years, becomes something no status symbol can ever give you. It becomes freedom. Not the freedom to buy more things. The freedom to make decisions without financial pressure. The freedom to say no to a job that is wrong for you. The freedom to be there for your family when they need you. The freedom to wake up on a Monday morning and feel calm instead of trapped. Gary pulls away from that traffic light in his dented Camry. Unhurried. Unbothered. Completely free. And the Escalade sits there for one more red light, looking impressive, going nowhere fast. Real wealth is silent. And it is absolutely worth building. If this video made you think differently about how you spend, how you see money, or how you define success, drop a comment below and tell me, are you Team Brandon or Team Gary right now? Be honest. There is no wrong answer. This is a judgment-free zone, and I promise you, more people are Team Brandon than anyone admits. And if you want to go even deeper, the next video I want you to watch is about the single most common retirement mistake that even high earners make, the one that does not show up on any budget spreadsheet, but quietly delays financial independence by 10 years or more. You will want to see that one. Subscribe if you have not already.